Live from Detroit to dig in on the implications of this race and so much more. Joining us now in the News Center is independent national security and political analyst Paul Rieckhoff here in studio, along with NewsNation contributor Lauren Wright and former Democratic Congressman Conor Lamb. Paul, let me start with you because as Joe was pointing out there, this was a tighter race than expected, and it was already expected to be pretty close here. What does that tell you about the odds going into November and really about the Democratic Party and the progressive wing of it?
There's clearly an identity crisis happening within the Republican Party. They're deeply divided. But I think the net here is they're putting forward a candidate that I don't think can win in Michigan. This is the Mamdani of Michigan. And Michigan is not Manhattan.
Mamdani fared better, though, here in New York, even with his odds.
Right, but he only won 51% in Manhattan.
Yeah.
So if you think you're going to fare better in Michigan, you're deluded here. I mean, I think this is really a sign of how the partisan primaries are taking both parties further and further to the extremes and further away from the middle where most Americans are. 45% of Americans are independent. In Michigan, it's about 17%. And he's going to have a real hard time reaching them. He's definitely far left of center. And I think it's a misstep on behalf of the party, but it's a reflection of where they are. The extremes have taken over the parties on the right and on the left, and the middle's being left behind.
Yeah, they've got 90 days to figure it out there in Michigan. Conor, let me ask you this. Congresswoman Haley Stevens released a statement offering support for Abdul El-Sayed now in his campaign. Listen to what El-Sayed said about uniting with Stevens today.
To my colleague and friend, Congresswoman Haley Stevens, we shared a great conversation this morning. And I know that it was a bitter end to this very long primary. But I also know that Haley brings the best of herself to her work. She is one of the most committed public servants that you'll ever meet. She loves democracy like I love democracy. And whatever differences that we might have had in the primary, they pale in comparison to what unifies us.
What is it going to take for Democrats to come together in Michigan after this very divisive primary, as Joe is pointing out?
Well, I think it starts with leadership. And so El-Sayed himself is going to have to set a tone that welcomes back Haley Stevens' supporters into his camp. You know, so she's already done her part. She said that she's supporting him over Mike Rogers and everything, but he needs to be the one to signal to these voters that they can have some faith in him and support him. You know, I also think to the degree everyone's saying that, oh, you know, the extremes have taken over the party, you have to remember how close this primary was. It doesn't look to me like anyone took over. It ultimately came down to a very, very small number of votes. So given that, he's going to have to be careful about how he campaigns.
Yeah, Lauren, to that point, I mean, President Trump called El-Sayed's win in Michigan a great news, as Paul was kind of pointing out for the Republican Party. Given that so far the polls don't have him going up against Rogers and winning here, the president went on to call him, of course, a communist. We've heard that before, a loser who hates Jews and Israel in the Truth Social post. How effective will those kind of attacks be? And can El-Sayed's brand of economic populism, from your perspective, does it have a chance in Michigan?
Well, first of all, you know, Donald Trump, that's low-hanging fruit that he is truthing out, or whatever you call his social media platform. The only hope for Republicans right now in this country with such an unpopular president and a lagging economy is the obscenity of the positions of these Democrats that are running in states. And so, yes, it was razor thin. I hear the former congressman. I wish he was still in Congress. But you have ideas that are not tolerant, that are not mainstream, and he's going to cost Democrats their path in Michigan, just like they lost their path in Maine. I mean, putting Hamas and Israel on an equal moral and ethical footing is not a mainstream position. These are extreme positions that Michiganders don't agree with, the majority of Americans don't agree with, and he is going to have a very hard time convincing the 6 million Jewish voters in this country that things are okay, because most of them feel that they're not right now.
Yeah, I'm hearing it's a win for the moment, but certainly still, again, that uphill battle. Conor, DDHQ Chief Elections Analyst Jeffrey Skelly has said that Democrats cannot afford to lose Michigan if they're going to find a path to taking the Senate and having a majority there. How critical will El-Sayed's campaign be toward answering Democrats' question about the electability of progressives going forward?
Oh, I mean, he has made himself the standard bearer on the question whether one of these progressive DSA-aligned candidates can win in a battleground state. It's absolutely right. The Democrats cannot control the Senate without Michigan. So, you know, if he wins, he's going to be able to cast himself as a hero. And if he loses, and I share a lot of the concerns that have been expressed on here today, it's another reminder of what we kind of already know from history, is that the general election voters in these battleground states are kind of in the middle, and these more extreme policy positions can really hurt you when it counts.
Yeah, we've got 90 days to figure out what happens here. Paul, let me move over to South Dakota, where Democratic Senate candidate has dropped out of the race, clearing the way for independent candidate Brian Bangs to take on Senator Mike Rounds in the fall. Your organization, Independent Veterans of America supports Brian Bangs. What do you expect in this independent versus Republican race?
One of the most exciting races in America.
Really?
And it's not the only one. Now, the Democrat has also dropped out in Idaho, so you'll see Todd Achilles head-to-head against incumbent Jim Risch. So this is, I think, a potentially winning strategy if you do want to knock out Republicans. It's not to put up a far leftist who's a replica of Mamdani. It's to put forward an independent veteran who lives in the state, who's dedicated to the state, who's strong on national security, and can bring people together. I think this state will be a test case for an alternate strategy that appeals to moderates, that appeals to independents. And you also may see the same thing in Montana. Seth Bodner is a Green Beret. He's a Rhodes Scholar. He's running as an independent there. But the Democrat refuses to drop out. She's got no chance. She's raised no money. And right now she's a spoiler. But we could see 3 Senate races that are head-to-head and independent against a Republican. And I think they're going to be 3 of the most exciting Senate races in America.
Yeah, over the last decade, we've seen this independent movement. But to your point there, in this midterm, it seems to be gaining the most momentum it's ever had. Lauren, let me ask you this, because we're waiting to hear from President Trump in Las Vegas, where he is going to, tout those tax cuts from the One Big Beautiful Bill, like no tax on tips, that affecting a lot of people there. But I want you to listen to what Kevin O'Leary told our Marnie Hugh this morning.
Well, there's a huge disconnect between the performance of the underlying economy, whether it be small business, 5 to 500 employees, or the S&P 500. We're having one of the most extraordinary earnings seasons I've seen in recent history. The economy is performing on all cylinders. And that's the good news for the administration and Trump. The bad news is it hasn't translated to Main Street in any city, including Vegas or California or anywhere, because inflation is still persistent.
I'm sorry, that was Marky Martin, the show that he was on. Let me ask you this, though, Lauren. As O'Leary was pointing out there a moment ago, and as I've covered quite a bit on, the overall economy is doing pretty fine. It's resilient. We've seen a strong labor market, a strong stock market, but the individual economy is struggling. When people go to the pump, when they go to the grocery store, can President Trump regain America's trust on the economy? We know his polling hasn't done well there. And what does that mean for the Republican Party with 90 days going into midterms?
It's going to be very hard. It's going to be very hard because who knows if this Iranian deal or no deal works out. It's going to be hard because the public polling too, Alicia, which is what I study, reflects that Americans think there's going to be a recession. They don't even believe the good numbers in the macro economy, which do, of course, exist, because Trump was elected on this big gamble. He said the Biden economy is trash, your families are suffering, and it's his fault. And when presidential candidates claim responsibility like that, you better be able to deliver, but he's promised on things that have very little to do with presidential policy. But maybe he can ditch the tariffs, maybe there's a deal with Iran, maybe the gas prices do come down, and I hope they do, and I'm rooting for our president. I just think it's such a tight timeline, and Americans just think things are way too expensive right now.
Lauren, then what do you think his messaging is going to be in Las Vegas in this moment, amid a time where gas prices are still relatively high and we haven't seen those updates with the conflict with Iran? We're expecting potentially a Strait of Hormuz deal soon, but that still hasn't arrived.
Right. Well, he's going to be very partisan. I mean, this is what the president's speeches sound like. And because, again, of the craziness going on in the Democratic Party, he has somewhat of a stump speech to give. And he will give that, and he will trash Democrats' policies because they do have socialist policies. They do have policies on the DSA website that are the front doorstep to communism. And Trump knows that. Again, if Democrats weren't doing all that nonsense, they would sweep these midterms. I think they'll get the House. I don't think they'll get the Senate. And it's because of some of the craziness. And Trump's going to put that back on him, and he's not going to take any blame for anything that's going on.
But we will see how his message is received today in Las Vegas. We'll take that those comments live, and then certainly over the next 90 days, how voters respond to that messaging come November. Lauren Wright, stick around. Paul Rieckhoff and Conor Lamb, thank you so much. All right, we're learning more about this armed suspect in this